Little after 4 p.m. in Ethiopia right now, and there is breaking news. Gunmen have killed at least 34 people in an attack on a passenger bus. This was in the west of the country. The number of dead likely to rise. And no indication yet of who carried out the attack or if it is linked to the escalating crisis in the north. That in itself is threatening to destabilise the entire region. The leader of that Tigray region has confirmed his forces launched rockets into Eritrea, bringing a third country in. And he's threatening to carry out more attacks.
Those who attack Tigray will not just attack and return home. We will retaliate while they are here and strike the airports from which they launched attacks. There is no place that we can't reach, and we will continue to attack selected targets that the invading forces are using against us.
The TPLF is now fighting both Eritrean and Ethiopian government forces, but Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says Ethiopia will achieve its goals on its own. He tweeted that those who commit crimes against humanity and peace will be held accountable. And the number of people fleeing the violence into Sudan, it's going up. At least 20,000 now, according to the United Nations, as well as the reports of massacres, of ethnic profiling, in which both sides are accused of atrocities. So a lot to talk about. We'll do it with Mohammed Ado, who's in the city of Gondar on the border of the Tigray region. First of all, this bus attack, Mohammed, anything more?
Well, yes, Kamal, we are hearing from the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission that the figure of 34 dead is just an estimate and that the death toll is bound to rise. The gunmen are said to have waylaid and ambushed the bus as it was heading to the Amhara region from the Benishangul Gumuz region, which is in western Ethiopia, and are said to have killed the passengers who were aboard the bus in a very gruesome attack. The attack happened at the Debate area, which is a place that is known for these kinds of insecurities, and gunmen carrying out attacks like this one on civilians, and government officials are saying this is mainly caused by a tribal animosity between rival ethnic groups resident in that area. And a few weeks ago, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed had said that these gunmen who are carrying out these attacks in Benishangul were trained in neighboring Sudan and had called on the Sudanese government to ensure that areas along the border were cleared of these armed groups.
OK, so we'll leave that there, Mohammed, and then focus on the existing conflict in the north. The fact that Eritrea is getting drawn into this now, take us through your thoughts on what that could mean for the conflict as a whole and how Eritrea may respond.
Well, diplomatic sources are categorical that it is just a matter of time before Eritrea becomes fully involved with this conflict. Although Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has tweeted earlier on today that Ethiopia has the capability to carry on with the operation on its own and doesn't need help from any quarters. But again, Eritrea has an axe to grind with the TPLF. Not only has it fought a long war that lasted from 1998 to 2000, but the flashpoint for that conflict, the village of Badme, is administered by the TPLF. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has absolutely no objections to Eritrea taking Badme and making it part of its country in accordance with the ruling of a UN-affiliated commission which ruled on the border between Eritrea and Ethiopia, which as yet is not demarcated. But the TPLF do not want that to happen. So these attacks, the missile attacks, as well as already the grievances that have existed between the TPLF and Isaias Afwerki, the president of Eritrea, are enough reasons for Eritrea to be on a war footing.
Incredibly delicate situation, isn't it? That's Mohammed Ado updating us on the situation in northern Ethiopia. Thank you, Mohammed. As we mentioned, the number of refugees crossing over into Sudan keeps growing. Hibber Morgan is there for us, reporting from a region just north of the Sudanese-Ethiopia border.
Hundreds of refugees continue to arrive here at Hamdayet Border Reception Center. Now, this center is just about 2 kilometers away from the Sudan-Ethiopia border in Sudan's Kassala state. And hundreds of refugees have been pouring in here into Hamdayet Reception Center, with the number reaching up to 9,000 just over the past few days alone. Now, most of them live in conditions like this, out in the open with no shelter and no proper sanitation. And this is raising concerns amongst aid organizations here, especially medics, that this would create a health crisis. Medics say that most of the people who arrive suffer from chest infections as well as malaria infections due to exhaustion from traveling for days escaping the fighting in the Tigray region. Most of the refugees we've spoken to speak of the same horror, saying that they have seen people being slaughtered, that they've seen aerial bombardments, which has made them fear for their lives and flee here to Sudan, seeking safety and seeking humanitarian aid. Now, medics say that they are quite concerned about the number of refugees and the influx. They say that they're expecting more than 9,000 over the coming days, and that's just here in Hamdayet Border Reception Center. Sudan says that it's expecting a total of up to 200,000 in the coming week between here in Kassala State and Gadaref State, which both border Ethiopia, and it's calling out for the international aid organizations to help respond to what it's calling is turning out to be a refugee crisis.
Just want to have a closer look at the TPLF's main concerns. It is worried that Abiy Ahmed's democratic reforms threaten the current federal arrangement, which gives the Tigray region its self-autonomous status. On top of that, the TPLF wants more of a say in Ethiopia's future relationship with neighbouring Eritrea. Tigrayans also think Abiy's government has unfairly targeted them as part of a crackdown on past rights abuses and corruption. Some thoughts now from Jason Mosley, who's a research associate for the African Studies Centre at the University of Oxford in the UK. He told us earlier it is difficult to predict what's going to happen next.
There is a lot we don't know about what's happening. Even the reports, the TPLF claiming attacks, what they were actually able to hit, if the attacks actually landed at all anywhere near where they were supposed to, has been denied by the Eritrean sources. But with media access limited, independent corroboration of these kinds of facts is very limited. So it's difficult to say exactly what's happened. We can say, however, that the border between Eritrea and Ethiopia is heavily militarized and has been for 2 decades. So the potential for this to escalate significantly is obviously there. And certainly all sides in the conflict within Ethiopia have incentives to portray what's happening in highly fraught terms in order to internationalize it, but for different reasons. So it's very difficult to predict whether the Eritrean government feels that it's in a position to push militarily on this. I think the key thing would be to focus on the need to reverse course from this spectacular failure of governance, both on the part of the Ethiopian government and the regional authorities in Tigray, and de-escalate rather than focus on escalation.